Mega Agent Tim Soykin, the host of the Tough Talk podcast. Today's guest, John Martin III, started in real estate in 1998. He's worked in almost every role. His team's one of the top producers in the Metroplex, but he's here today for his incredible knowledge about rentals, long-term rentals, short-term rentals, vacation rentals, multifamily. Currently, John owns over 50 doors, and no guest has succeeded in the diverse rental market more than John Martin III. As a quick intro, our guest today helps drive the Martin Black team. Again, he and his partner own over 50 doors, and he's bought existing homes, built from the ground up, remodeled, and done just about everything you can do in real estate. Today, we're excited to welcome our guest, John Martin III. John, tell us a little bit about how you got into real estate in 1998. You're one of the few people, by the way, that's been doing this longer than me. He's younger than me, by the way. But you've been doing this almost straight out of college, right?
Correct. Straight out of college. So my mother, Linda Martin, she got into real estate in 1990 when they got rid of their last small business. They had owned multiple businesses, gas stations, video stores, et cetera. And when I went to school at Texas A&M, I had always spent time with my mom at work and so forth. And I decided about halfway through that I was going to go into real estate with her. So as soon as I got out of A&M, I went straight to work with her in November of 98.
Okay. So you were in November of 98. So you were around for the crash of 2008.
Correct.
And you and I have talked a little bit about that before we started, but talk about what that crash meant to you, how it affected you, how you survived it. Did you own were you a big property owner at the time, or were you just selling real estate? Talk about how 2008, which is probably the greatest crash we've seen in the last 50 years, how 2008 affected you.
Yeah, 2008 definitely affected me. I had just gotten married in 2006 and started in real estate and gotten more and more aggressive every year. I started buying properties, bought my first house as a foreclosure, lived in it for a year with 3 buddies, and they were paying the mortgage, and then rented my next house out and bought another one and kept doing that, and had about 7 or 8 properties when 2008 hit, and everything came to a screeching halt. I never thought thing would slow down and stuff like that. So it definitely flattened out for a couple of years and took a long time off from buying additional properties till about 10 years ago, and then kind of started back up with some different things.
So first of all, as a realtor, it affected your business.
Oh, substantially.
Business was down. And then as an investor, it pumped the brakes on you investing for a little bit.
Correct.
Did you lose any of the properties you have, or did you have to sell them, or did you repurpose them? What did that look like?
So my wife and I have a funny story. We say that we looked at each other during those times and said, if we can survive this, we can survive anything.
Exactly.
At the time, the industry was so slow, we couldn't sell our rent houses, and we couldn't afford to let them sit vacant. So we rented them all out. And like I said, we survived by the skin of our teeth. But at the time, we also owned a couple daycares and some other businesses. And so we were working at everything we could to just keep
whatever you had to keep it going.
Exactly.
So 2008 was a little different for me. So I got in real estate in 2005 and 6, and I was like, this is easy. I sold 73 homes my first full year in real estate, 2006, 2007, and then 2008 came, and the buyers just dried up. So for those of you who don't know, in 2006, 2007, if you could fog a mirror, they would approve you. They were approving people with 480 credit scores. Do you remember that?
Oh, yeah.
It was crazy. In 2008, when the market crashed, everybody kind of overcorrected, and they wouldn't loan money to anybody. You had to have an 800 credit score. Everything had to be perfect. I told people getting a loan was a little bit like a trip to the proctologist, but less comfortable. It was really tough getting a loan in 2008, 2009. But the best thing that came out of it is if you survived it, there were less realtors in the market. My business in 2010, 2011, 2012 was like, boom. But you had to survive that 2008.
You did.
When did you, 2008, 2009, 2010, when did you start feeling like, oh man, this is going to be incredible because there's less agents in the market, and boy, I know more real estate than I've ever known because I survived this?
It's probably about 2010, when things started to pick back up and stuff like that. And, we just got more and more aggressive after that. Like I said, we were adding to our team at the time. It started out with just my mother and I, and then my brother-in-law, Neil Green, joined us and so forth. And we have some other agents that joined our team, and we just were expanding from there. And we just, as the market picked back up, we just took full advantage of it.
Okay. All right. So when you say took full advantage, as a realtor, you took full advantage. And again, one of the most successful teams basically on your side of town. You've been that way for a long time. But let's to me, the reason you're here is not just because you're a successful realtor, because again, you're just such a diverse investor. Let's start talking about your path into short-term rentals, long-term rentals. Was your first purchase considered to be how long? Not first purchase, because you already had the other properties. Do you still have those, by the way?
I do.
Okay. So you still have those, and you've refinanced money out of those?
A couple times.
Okay.
Yep.
And by the way, one of the best ways to make money in real estate, we talked about Kiyosaki's.
Yep.
You just
never sell it, just refinance
Just refinance it. All right. So you still have those original properties.
Correct.
Was the refinancing those, was that how you got into buying more, by the way?
For the most part, yeah, about 10 years ago.
All right. So about 10 years ago, you started aggressively buying again. Walk us through that.
So about 10 years ago, and my wife will tell you I have severe ADD, so that's why I do all these different things. I don't sleep. I love what I do, and I think it was about 8 years ago we bought our first property in Galveston. It needed a complete remodel. Nobody had lived in it for 10 years. Okay. But those were the projects that I like the best because we're going to take them down to the studs anyway, remodel them, and those historic homes like that have so much character. So we bought that one, and then when I told my partner when we bought it, I said, we're going to Airbnb this. If that doesn't work, we'll long-term rent it. And if that doesn't work, we bought it right, we'll just sell it. So we Airbnb'd it for 2 years, and it was doing okay and stuff like that. But, there's a lot of work that goes into Airbnbs. People think it's easy and stuff like that. So
there's a lot of systems in short-term rentals.
100%.
A lot of systems.
Yep. So after about 2 years, we just decided to go ahead and convert it to a long-term rental because it would just be less headaches. Now, at the time, we had already bought another property there on the island that was closer to the water, larger. We put a swimming pool in, and we started learning the different things about the Airbnbs that really made yours look way better than the others.
So I want to slow down here before we go forward. So you said something to me that was really powerful. When you bought that property, you could short-term rent it, you could long-term rent it, you could sell it. One thing Donald Trump talks about, no matter what you think about him as a president, his book Art of the Deal is one of the best salespeople books of all time. He talked about when you go into a deal, you want to go in with 3 or 4 exit strategies. And you almost perfected that because we bought it so well, because you did the construction yourself. I'm not handy. I can't do construction myself. That's not an out I have as easy.
Oh, I can't either.
Right. But you have a team that does.
Correct.
So because you bought really well, you had 3, maybe even 4 exit strategies. You could have rented it and sold it as an investment too. So you had several exit strategies. So that was your first one. But what you learned is that one didn't work as a short-term rental, but it led you to your second property with the pool. Is that one still a short-term rental for you?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And that was when we took all the way down to the studs. We added 2 bathrooms. We put the pool in. It was basically it was an estate deal, and nobody had touched it in 10 years, and we redid the whole thing.
So talk about why that one works better. So for the investor who's looking at the short-term rental, why does that one work better than the other one?
Well, for instance, we had bought a second property in Galveston. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Well, what you don't realize when you don't know the market down there, there's 1,000 2-bedroom, 1-baths. Okay. So you got to set yourself apart. Our house is a 5-bedroom, 4-bath. We put the pool in. We're half a block from the beach. You can see the ocean. You can walk to the ocean. It's all right there. But the swimming pool is the biggest thing that I think set us apart. Even though you're on the beach, everybody wants to come down and cool down in the pool and all that. And you can take a market of 2,000 Airbnbs. I'm just randomizing that number, and there might only be 100 of them that have swimming pools.
Right.
So that just narrows down the market on that.
So I think the most successful Airbnbs I've seen do have something special about them.
Correct.
When I look for an Airbnb, we're always looking for, we look for a property that was basically in wine country, but it was at the top of a hill, and all the properties they looked like wine kegs, I think. And it was a really neat property in Fredericksburg. It was a really neat stay, but they had something unique that they were selling me. It embraced Fredericksburg probably better than anything else. So I think the best short-term rentals have something special about them or something innovative to get people to stay there. Have any of your rentals, one of my favorite words now is digital nomads. Do you have any digital nomads, the guys who could kind of move anywhere and just come rent from you for 3 or 4 months at a time, any of your short-term rentals?
No, we've really never seen any of that market. Ours is just, weekend getaways. We have 2 properties in Fredericksburg. Same thing. We put pools in both of those, get away from all that.
So that's your signature is you like to put pools in. And I think I saw you had Fredericksburg and you have New Braunfels, maybe?
So we have a 7-bedroom, 6-bath that's directly on the Guadalupe River. We don't have a pool at that one, but we have direct river access. You just walk down the stairs, jump in, and float around.
Wow.
That's in the Horseshoe. And then we have another property that I call it the commune, but it's like 4 houses on 3 acres, and it's got a pool in the middle, and you can rent it as a whole. It sleeps 43 if you rent it as a whole, or you can rent individuals.
In the compound. real quick, we'll give you time to shout out at the end, but if people wanted to look at any of your properties, let's give you a quick chance to do it now. Is there a site they can go to see your properties?
We don't have a direct site. The 2 properties I just talked about, they're through New Braunfels Escapes, and then our 2 properties in Fredericksburg are through Absolute Charm.
All right, so those people owe you a little bit because you just shouted out for them. All right, so you've done short-term rentals. Talk to me about, I think you said you guys discovered you could actually buy some land and build on it, and then you lease to Section 8. So most of my investors don't like Section 8. So I want to spend some time talking about that. So tell us about the process. You bought some land, you built with the intention, I think, of doing Section 8 rentals.
Well, I had originally bought my first house in League City, and I bought it from another investor on a deal I couldn't turn down, and it needed a little bit of upkeep, but I had somebody come to me, an agent, and say, hey, would you consider Section 8? And at the time, I had never done it before or anything like that, so I gave it a shot. So that's how we started out with that one single home. And then my partner and I, we were buying some older homes there in League City, and they were, 40 years old, and you had old roofs, ACs, and all that. And I said, we can build one cheaper than this. So we found a block of 11 lots down on Lamarck, and then we just started building these homes. And we put out a really nice product. We do granite countertops, stainless appliances, and all that. So it's a really appealing product. 1,200 square feet, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, brand new, high efficiency, everything.
So a lot of people don't know what Section 8 is. So why don't you just explain what Section 8 is, and then we'll talk about the advantages and disadvantages.
Section 8 is a government assistance program for people with low income for rent and stuff like that. And it's based off what their income is. We have some tenants that pay a little bit. We have some tenants that pay a lot of the rent. So that's what it's based on.
Okay. And it's been a success for you when you've had the right Section 8 tenants. You still vet the tenants, I assume.
Yeah, as long as I've been in long-term rentals, you can have bad tenants that aren't Section 8. So it's on both sides of it's on both sides. But yeah, we do vet the tenants and stuff, so forth. But we just feel like the product that we offer is a little bit better. But it's also about taking care of them too. Like, we're good landlords. When they have a problem, we take care of it.
You take care of it, yeah. I think that's one of the most important things you can do. If you jump all over a problem when it happens, the tenant just tends to stay longer. They just do. My wife and I have a rental that we were talking about Fort Worth, in Keller, Texas. We had a rental we had in Keller, Texas, that we basically had one tenant for 15 years.
Yep, had those.
And my wife kept asking, when are we going to sell it? It's like, well, when that guy moves out, maybe, but we're going to let him pay down our mortgage as much as we can. So time is on your side as a landlord. Time is one of your greatest friends. And I go back to those, you said 5 or 8 properties that you had in 2004, 2005. You said you've refinanced them a few times, but how many times could you have paid those properties off with other people's money?
Oh, yeah, multiple times.
Multiple times.
It was a different market back then, but we were buying houses for $80,000 back then that are $300 now, or $260 now. They've slipped a little bit, but so forth.
So there's a line that I use a lot. So I show a lot of office condos. And I was showing an office condo a couple months ago, and a guy goes, I could have bought this 10 years ago for $250. And I say, yeah, but you didn't, and it's $500 now. So I know there's people that look at those $80,000 houses and say, I could have bought them for $80, and it's $300 now. But when's the best time to buy? Right now.
Correct.
And it's not just about price, it's about terms. If you have somebody that offers friendly terms, I have a group that we use that buys storage units. It's all about the terms. It's not about the price. It's, will you do owner financing? Will you do this and that? So have you gone down that path where people have done owner financing for you, or is everything you buy kind of straight up loans? Or
no? So it's funny, when we were talking about the loans going into 2008, that those were the loans I was getting. They were zero down investor loans. I took advantage of what programs that were out there. A lot of people didn't. They were overextended and so forth, but I took advantage of those programs, and that's got me where I was. And then from there on out, I have had quite a few owner finance properties I've bought, and we do a lot of the BRRRR method. Okay. Buy, rehab, rent, refinance, redo.
Right.
And what we'll do is, like, we'll go into an apartment complex, and we might, we'll pick it up and pay cash for it, remodel it, and then we'll take it back to the bank and pull our money out of it. So
yeah, refinancing is one of God's greatest gifts.
Yep.
Storage unit wise, that's what all these guys do that I invest with. They buy it, 5 years, they pull all your equity out. You still own it, and then you go take that same money, and now you have 2. People kind of make fun of me because I only make 6 or 8% on those, but I tell them it's not about the 6 or 8%. It's about refinancing out and doing it again and again. And now my initial investment, I'm not making 6 or 8. I'm making 12 to 16. And then after 5 years, when they refinance again, I'm making 24%.
Yep.
So time is on your side. with your investments that you've done in the past, do you have anything? So I know you did the Robert Kiyosaki method. You buy houses, you sell houses, you buy an apartment complex. So let's talk about how many I think you said you own
just one small
currently.
Yeah.
Okay.
And my father owns a 20-unit apartment complex also.
Okay. Did you sell houses to buy it? Was it something you did separately? Did you do 1031 exchanges, or was it just a straight purchase?
It was just a straight purchase. Actually came from a wholesaler, and then we did on that one. But we've done 1031s also.
Okay. So you will use money creatively, 1031, straight purchase, seller financing. And the one thing I will say, always ask a seller if they're willing to finance.
Sure.
Sometimes you can get better terms. Before we go to secrets of success, is there anything we haven't covered in your bio that we should cover?
Not really that I can think of. It's really exciting. My son, who's a Houston police officer, has got his license and working with me now. My wife works with me now. So, and like I said, my mother started this whole thing. My father is actually the broker of our company as well, too. So it's a family business.
That really is cool, this family. It's neat that your son's in it now. And you said when your wife came in, she has done a lot for you, too, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. She's really been my right hand, She helps me with a lot of the day-to-day operations that I can't get to. And I've also got a full-time assistant, Jill, at our office that she's my other right hand. I got two right hands, so I'm very blessed.
My wife really does a good job when I come to her with an investment of really vetting it with me. Like, she'll sit down and talk it through, and she'll see holes that I won't see and positives that I don't see. And just to have somebody like that in your life is one of the best things.
Sure.
Right, so the next section, secrets of success. So you own 50 units now, 50 doors. That's a really big deal. So one of my favorite stories is there's a guy, I can't remember which investment book, and it may be a Kawasaki book, where a guy goes and he sits, he's out selling stocks or something, and he meets this old couple, and the guy goes, "Hey, I don't buy stocks." And the guy called him a fool, and he goes, "Well, come back and let me show you something." And there were 40 to 50 notebooks, and each one was a house the guy owned outright, right? So that guy's secret of success is buy what you know, buy real estate. You and I sell real estate, and I tell people, you don't get into real estate to buy it or to sell it. You get into real estate to buy it and perfect buying it. You seem to have perfected buying it, but what are some of your real secrets of success? And talk about, you started in Galveston. Why did you expand out? So,
well, I actually started more in the Friendswood area.
Okay.
And then I expanded down to Galveston and then everywhere in between. We do know that we keep it all local. It's a lot easier. When I do my Airbnbs, I use management companies because that's a lot more hands-on, but the long-term rentals we all do ourselves. But like I said, I just bought my first house. It was a foreclosure. And then my wife, when we met, I convinced her to buy a foreclosure. And then, we just kind of went from there. But again, money was easy back then, too. It was a lot different.
I think you have to take advantage of the market you're in. And I think that's one thing you can say to anyone else. Joe Rothschild was on here a few weeks ago, and he said, "Hey, when the market goes left, I go right," right? So I think always looking for buying opportunities. So you and I were talking about Galveston earlier. And Galveston right now, for those of you who don't know, average days on the market is 300, 400 plus.
Extremely high.
It's terrible. You can't get insurance. There's all kinds of issues with the owners. Nothing's selling out there. It's not renting as much as it has in the past. It is considered right now one of the toughest markets in the United States. Should you be buying in Galveston for that reason?
Well, I've got an investor client that we're going down there in 2 or 3 weeks because for that exact same reason, and real estate's cyclical. Everything comes back. So, whenever this whole cycle goes through and stuff, Galveston will pick back up again. I mean, after Hurricane Ike hit Galveston, you could buy houses for $15,000, $20,000, and look where they got to a couple of years ago. So it'll come back. So I think it is, but you've got to also have that staying power because you're going to lose money for the next couple of years.
Okay. All right. So what kind of fueled was it just you wanted to go to Fredericksburg? What fueled your expansion to Fredericksburg and New Braunfels? What made you decide to go to those markets?
So actually, me and one of my business partners, one of my good buddies from Texas A&M, we had bought 4 lots down in Galveston 20 years ago, and we sold them, and we were going to 1031 exchange them. And I just happened to be in New Braunfels and loved that area. And there was a house that I had seen on Realtor.com the year before, and it was needed to be completely gutted and stuff like that. And that's what I like. I like those projects because then we can do them exactly the way we want. We can do whatever we want to it. So that was the first one we did, and then we still had some more 1031 money. And my my business partner, Rob Duncan, at the time, actually is the one that said, "Hey, let's go look at Fredericksburg." So I wasn't as familiar with that area, so we got out there, and that was kind of at the hot season too, when it was really a top. But we also, that was when interest rates were 2.5%.
Right.
It changes the game.
Yeah, it really does. So have you been in Fredericksburg for peach season before?
I have.
Nice. Yeah. I love Fredericksburg. By the way, when people come to Texas, they think Tex-Mex food. But the German food in Fredericksburg is incredible. By the way, Fredericksburg, if you want to give us any money for shouting you out, it's one of my favorite places in the country, not just in Texas to visit.
Yep.
It's like you're in a different country compared to the rest of Texas. Fredericksburg's amazing.
And the way it's expanding is amazing, too. They just opened a beautiful new hotel downtown, the Albert Hotel, and there's another, I forgot if it's one of the high-end hotels is coming in just south of town, too.
And those of you who don't know it, Fredericksburg is wine country for Texas.
Correct.
It is the king of wine country, and they have a brewery there now. I saw.
Oh, yeah. They have Allstat Brewery. They have a couple whiskey distilleries now. Nice. I think there's 70 wineries. So, yeah. And it's, I love Fredericksburg's one of my favorite places to go to. All right. So any other secrets of success you want to share with us? Things that you think, man, I've really done this well, a secret that I'm willing to share with people here at the Tough Talk? Well, I mean, you just have to learn the market you're in. You know, I spend a lot of time doing research on my Airbnbs. What I'll do is I'll get on Airbnb and I'll go to all the different houses around and look at their calendars and see which ones are renting and why they're renting and what the rates they're getting and kind of do math, do the math backwards from there, trying to work the numbers backwards. And it just depends on, again, on long terms. It's pretty easy. You just look at what the rents are and you can see how much you can buy it for and what kind of rehab costs you're going to have and stuff like that. But it's just tenacity more than anything.
So there's people who tell you, and I love this, hey, buy a home a year, right? And that sounds great. And I love, if I could just buy a home every year, that'd be great. But what I find is I'm buying in clumps. So several years ago, I bought 4 or 5 investment properties. Then I have a buddy who really got into storage units, and now my wife and I are investors, small investors, in 7 different storage units. I don't want to give the impression we own 7 storage units. We own a small part of 7 storage units. So you buy in clumps, right? And when there's something to take advantage of, be ready to strike. So tell me about how that strategy worked for you, because it sounds like you went from gas fully on, got to 5 or 8 units, pulled off the gas, and in the last 10 years, it's been pedal to the metal again.
Yeah, like I said, it's finding your niche, and the new construction was really good for us, for a good while, especially because we built our first 2, and they went really, really well. And then I found that block of 11 lots all together, so I said, this would be great, So we built 6 in the first block, and then we built the next 5, and then we bought 3 lots, 2 streets over, and so that area was working well for us. And like I said, we were giving a product out there that people wanted, so.
And because something was working for you, you just kept doing it again and again and again and again. There's a line I use a lot here. Like, let's say you're fishing in a certain spot and you just keep catching fish there. It's tempting to move, but just keep catching the fish as long as you can in that spot before you move down. It sounds like that's what you did there.
Yeah. And, you talk about commercial and all that. I've always had a desire to get in commercial, but I know residential. I know single family homes, and that's why I've just stuck with what I've known and stuff like that.
And I think the reason while I did residential, I look at it like I moved out of residential because commercial was just no emotion for me. And I love that.
I agree.
You can know me 5 minutes and know that I really don't want the emotional talk of, hey, you've got to pay your rent. With commercial people, if they don't pay your rent, they're gone. With residential, you have to listen to the heartstrings. And that was tough for me. I did buy some foreclosures and had to kick some people out of their homes, and that can be tough. I could do it, but actually that wasn't as much that got me as much as the calls like, hey, I can't pay my rent this month. And I got my script down, by the way. And my script was, oh, that's okay. And they'd go, that's okay. Yeah, it's no problem. The sheriff's a good friend of mine. We'll have you evicted in 3 days, which you can't.
Sure.
But just getting those scripts down was important. But residential, if you do it right, and if you're looking out for your tenants and taking care of them, I don't think there's a better investment. I don't think commercial's better. I don't think stock's better. I don't think there's anything better than owning a home that has the right tenant and they sit there while your property appreciates in value. You can do some tax avoidance, right? And you have cash flow long term. You might not have cash flow right away, but long term you're going to have cash flow.
And that's what a lot of people don't realize. I remember when we rented one of our houses out, my wife and I just got married and we rented her house out, and we were only making $100 a month over the thing, over the mortgage. But I was like, but let's look at long term. Now we've had that house 20 years, it's paid off, and so forth. So, and over years as the rents go up, that margin goes from 100 to 200 to 300.
Any other secrets of success you really want to share as a realtor or as an investor? Is there anything else you want to share here?
Well, as a realtor, it's just that you need to stay on top of your past customers and clients, because that's your number one source right there.
It is.
I mean, 90% of our business is past customers and referrals, and stay in front of it. I remember one things that I remember from my real estate classes when I took them 30 years ago, they were saying that the average person doesn't remember their realtor's name 3 years later.
Yes.
So I think it's really important to keep your face and name in front of your past clients all the time.
Welcome to the Tough Talk, and we are vibing. right here with the Tough Talk. I'm here with the owner, Kevin Massey of Go Long Studios. Today we're going to talk about creating your dream job in real estate. The coolest thing about having a real estate license is you can sell real estate.
Yes.
You can.
You can do a number of things.
There's a lot of things. So we're going to talk about creating your dream job in real estate. So for a long time, I was just a residential agent. I was just helping people buy homes. And then I became a listing agent, right? And that's kind of the normal progression. You're a listing. You work with buyers. You work with
buyers, then you work with sellers.
And then over time, hey, I might as well, I've been doing it a while, might as well get my broker's license.
Well, and that's the evolution, though, is, you know, these people that buy, they're going to need to sell, so they're calling you.
Right.
If you did a good job, that's who they're calling, right?
So natural progression, over time you become a broker. Then over time, you can make a living as a real estate trainer. Tom Ferry's done okay as a real estate trainer. So there's a lot of really famous real estate trainers out there. So if that's something you want to do, you can make a career in real estate becoming a real estate trainer. Of course, in my opinion, one of the best ways to make money in real estate is being an investor. Right? So you are buying real estate, you are creating passive incomes. That's one of the best things you can do.
Absolutely.
Now, Robert Anthony.
He's the development guru, huh?
He's a full-on developer. He's not only developed small communities, he's developed huge multi-thousand home communities. So he's a full-on developer, but he started with the real estate license. Right? I mean, that's where he started. And then long-term, hopefully, you're just managing partnerships and LLCs. To me, that's the dream job. You're in a couple partnerships and LLCs and own a whole lot of real estate, and you're making a bunch of money for doing not much of anything. So,
but if you look at this and how it just organically evolves, right?
Yes.
You know, once you and how when we said, you know, and as an investor, Rothschild, he had his lane, which is the strip center retail.
Right.
Yours is office.
Right.
And so everybody, you know, people like metal buildings, industrial.
I know people who specialize in churches.
No, 100%.
That's all they do. Right.
And so that's, you know, as you're growing through that residential agent and listing agent, find what you love, enjoy what you love, and then start to hone in on that. Stay in your lane, right? Is what we were talking about.
But the best thing about real estate is there really is a lot you can do to make a living. Look at you. You don't have your real estate license, but you came from a real estate background and you have a studio now. So your real estate license or your real estate expertise can be the launching point into a lot of different things. Or you can, if you want to show homes till you're 75 or 80, some people truly do love that. I don't, but some people do. You can do that. So there are multiple places you can go in real estate.
I mean, hey, you know, some of my clients when I was in the real estate tech space, they worked for the principal. They didn't carry their license on purpose, but it definitely taught them how to go seek out business, right? Looking for those tenants to occupy their space. But then also working for principals as, you know, divesting assets.
Right.
Going and finding buyers in that sense.
Well, Robert was buying homes for
taking the calls about the deals when it's for sale too.
Robert was buying homes for REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust.
Yep.
So you could also form a REIT as a real estate agent. So there's so many things you can do with your real estate license. Don't limit yourself to one thing. This can be your future career, but it doesn't just have to be buying and selling houses. Although that's great for some people.
It's such a diverse industry, and you know, when you say real estate, there's a million things you could be doing in that.
Right. Remember what Joe Rothschild said, I don't have any limiting beliefs.
Yes.
Which of these has Joe Rothschild done?
All of them.
All of them.
There you go.
Thanks. Welcome. Thank you for watching the Tough Talk. We look very forward to seeing you back for our next episode.
Absolutely. Thanks for vibing.
Clients all the time.
We do a small thing. So I remember there's a bakery here in Katy called Ooh La La. One of the best bakeries I've ever been to. Amazing bakery. And we just went to them 20 years ago and said, we want to send our clients cupcake coupons, not cupcakes, that'd be tough to mail, cupcake coupons on their birthday. And they're like, well, a lot of agents want to do that, but they don't keep it up. We've been doing the same program with the same bakery for 20 years. I spend $4,000 a year with that one bakery.
That's super cool.
And we do stupid amounts of business because of that. There are now kids that we are selling homes to. And one of my favorite stories, this lady goes, hey, your aunt's a realtor now. I know we've used Tim for years, but we got to use your aunt. And she goes, well, my aunt hadn't sent me cupcakes for the last 20 years, and Tim has. And that young lady bought a $500,000 home with us. That's you know amazing. What the commission on $500,000 will pay for? A lot of cupcakes.
A lot of cupcakes.
So we do that as our follow-up. We do pie days a couple times a year. So we're really into, I guess giving people diabetes. Just kidding. But we're really into staying in touch that way. What are some tricks you have to stay in touch with past clients?
So when I first got in, again, with my mother, Linda Martin, she's big on just mail outs and stuff like that, postcards, telling your people what the market's like, telling them what's going on that way, and just repeatedly every month, and just
people want to know what their home's worth. They look forward to that.
Sure. And, offering free market analysis and Christmas cards and all those kind of things like that.
Okay. So mailing is still a very good way to go. So she still stays on top, and you guys do mailers.
Well, we've kind of diversified now between mailers and emails and so forth.
Okay. All right. All right. The next section we're going to go to is kind of state of the market for you. So I think you're in one of the most unique places in the world. If the market is going really well and properties are really selling, you win. And if the market goes to crap, as an investor, you can win.
Sure.
So let's talk about the state of the market currently for you, what it looks like, what things you're taking advantage of, and what things you're shying away from right now.
Well, so I'm very particular on what I buy because obviously right now it is, more of a buyer's market. So I have a lot of wholesalers and people and other agents that bring me properties all the time because they might have a client that it's a distressed property and they don't either have the money or don't have the time and want to fix it up and stuff like that. So I'll have to look at it. And again, I'll look at the same thing. Am I going to buy it to flip it? Am I going to buy it to long-term rent it and so forth. So like right now, only the homes that are absolutely perfect are selling in our market, Galveston County, Friendswood, League City, all that. And I'm telling everybody it's either going to sell in the first 7 days or it's going to sit 60 to 120 days. And that's what we're seeing repeatedly.
I find the buying opportunities when interest rates are really high, if you have cash or if you have access to cash, which are two different things. The buying opportunities can be really off the chart right now because there's not a lot of people that can get loans. So when interest rates go really low, the advantage to buy is you can get a loan, but everybody can. When the interest rates are really high, if you have cash, there are a lot of creative things you can do. And also if you have creativity, again, you can ask, now's the time you can ask sellers for seller financing. That's not something you can do in a market where interest rates are 2 or 3% because everybody can get a loan. So in a market like this, I feel like you can lean into, you can ask for more. You can ask for more concessions. I tell people it's not return on investment, it's return of investment. So if I'm buying a house and the seller said, look, I'll do it for you and I will give you $15,000 to pay all your closing costs, things like that can relate. I find you can ask for more right now. You can ask for new ACs, you can ask for this, you can ask for that. Are you seeing that in the market too? You can just ask for more.
For the majority of the time. Like it's still a case-by-case basis. I literally wrote an offer yesterday in a house in League City, $5,500 over asking, and we still didn't even get it.
Oh, wow. So the right homes are still selling.
The right homes, if it's the perfect homes, they're, move-in ready and stuff like that. People aren't wanting rehabs right now. They're not wanting the fixers-uppers that we were seeing for a long time. They want move-in ready.
So we're not going to go to the tough talk yet, the really tough advice you'd give, but I want you to talk about the mistakes that you see agents or investors make in the market right now.
Well, from the investor's side is getting over leveraged. That's something that's very easy to do. I was very aggressive when I was young and doing that. And like I said, when 2008 hit, I was borderline over leveraged. But, like I said, I came through and survived it. And now I keep my ratios down. I used to be, I'd leverage them to the hilt on everything I could. I try to keep everything at a 50% and so forth on my rental properties. From an agent standpoint of view, it's just, this is not an easy business. A lot of people think, oh, I want to be a realtor. I want to go out and sell houses and all that. But it's 7 days a week. It's 12 hours a day. And you've got to be willing to make those sacrifices to be successful.
So from an investor standpoint, not getting over leveraged, I think, is one of the best things you can do. But I think there's another crime, and it's a crime that I'm unfortunately committing right now. I'm too liquid right now. You know what's going down in value quicker than anything else? Cash. And if I had bought more, which I could have bought more 2 years ago, 3 years ago, I would be in a better position now. So there are times, yes, don't get over leveraged, but the same thing, don't go around bragging about how much cash you have, because the thing going down in value now quicker than anything else, again, is cash. So get your money invested in real estate. Get your money invested in REITs and whatever you can. Get your money in real estate. And if you're a stock person, go do that. But I know real estate.
Yep.
I'm ashamed to say that I don't own 50 doors right now. I own some commercial real estate, but I would love to own 50 doors. So you've really outperformed me in that area. So yes, don't get over leveraged, but also don't get over cashed.
Yep.
That could be a really bad place to be. If government shift, if dollar keeps going down in value, it could be a really bad place to be. So I would say just be careful of that.
No, I agree. And, real estate, even if you buy at the high of the market and it goes down, it's going to come back up.
Right.
You know, I knew people that bought in Florida before it crashed in 2008, and they thought they were, you know, we're never going to get it back. And they went down 50%, and then they were 200% up a couple of years ago.
Right.
So it all comes back, and you just got to stay with it.
And when a market goes down, look at it as a buying opportunity.
Correct.
Biggest mistakes that you've made or that you've seen people close to you make, but let's just stick with you. Biggest mistakes you've made.
Like I said, mine would have probably been getting over leveraged in 2007, 2008. You know, I started selling real estate and was very successful and was making money and wasn't putting enough cash away, which is important too. There's a fine line there.
There is.
There's a fine line between oversaving and overspending, I think. So that was probably the biggest one I had. But then, like I said, we made it through it.
So I want to talk about a mistake that I want you to kind of beat me up on some. So I have a tendency to at times think I'm the smartest man in the room. And I can't tell you how many times I've been sitting in the room with a guy who owned 300 units, or there's a guy that I worked with one time who owned 10,000 doors, apartment complexes. And you're sitting there talking about, hey, you know, I sold 73 homes last year, or you're bragging about something you have going on, and you don't know who you're in the room with. And there's so many times that I've opened up my mouth, and I was in the room with 500, you know, not 500, that's an exaggeration, 5 guys smarter than me, wealthier than me, had better systems than me. And if I had just asked more questions, you know, again, I've been in a room with a guy who owned 10,000 doors.
Yeah.
And by the way, he bought them all for about 10,000 and sold them for about 30,000. You do the math on that. Yeah. What does he do now?
Nothing.
He did nothing for 10 years. Then he went and got into Section 8, by the way.
There you go.
Now he just does Section 8. But my point is not asking enough questions, not seeing who's in the room with you. So tell me about a situation you found out you were in a room with somebody that you couldn't believe, like, oh my gosh, I'm not a famous person necessarily, but someone who was just such an expert that you kind of tripped over you were in a room with.
It was a client of mine, and he owner financed some houses to me. And if you met this guy, you know, doesn't dress nice, doesn't, you know, and he had over 300 houses in Minnesota at one time, you know, just went to high school, you know, ran a bicycle shop, but, you know, he just, you know, I would talk to him and listen to him and how he grew his business and stuff. He bought an old school and turned it into an apartment complex.
Oh, wow.
I mean, and he did all the work himself. So, you know, listening to somebody like that, and I've learned it's less talking and more listening, especially when you're in a room with people like that, like you were talking about.
And a lot of times you don't know. So I met a guy, everybody called him Peg because he had a peg leg, and so he wore one pant leg long, the other one short where you could see his peg leg. He had the dip of skull in his mouth. He had a ponytail. I think he was smoking when I met him. And he could do all of that because his family owned a block in downtown Houston. And they owned a whole block. And he had turned that, he inherited this whole block, and he had turned it into so much more. And the reason I kind of tripped over and we started talking, he asked me like if I was from a car family. I said, yeah, I grew up with like a 1974 GTO. And he goes, oh, I love the GTOs. And then I asked him how many cars he owned. And then I think it was a couple hundred. And it just kind of tripped over like, oh my gosh, this guy has bought and sold more in his life than I will ever accomplish. And you never would have seen that guy coming. You don't know when you're in the room with that guy. So I've definitely been the guy in the room who thought I was the smartest person in the room. But I would say what I've really learned over the years, the biggest mistake I've made is even if someone's not smarter than you, there's always something you can learn from them. There's a guy that I work with now who's just like the king of muds. He is smarter than me, but he's the king of muds. He can get you in and out in the mud world. Somebody who can get you in and out of the mud world, he has that very specific skill set, and I never would have known that if I hadn't asked. So, and that's the guy that we have to use all the time now, because if somebody knows muds, multiple utility, municipal utility districts, they can save your life. So, all right. So, any case you've had something like that happen to you, where you found out, oh my, you said your client. Any other cases you could think of?
Yeah, you never judge a book by its cover. I mean, you might go out to show a house, and somebody, not nice clothing and all that, and they're looking at an expensive house, and you might think, oh, they can't afford this house, but you never judge a book by its cover. Then they end up buying 3 houses. So.
Any goals so you're at 50 now. Any goals for yourself for the next 5 or 10 years?
Yeah, it's funny. I had a friend of mine, Rob Duncan, the one that I owned some of my Airbnbs with, and he was asking me, he's like, so what's your goal? And I said, my goal was 20. And then,
you're at 50.
Then I got to 50 and above that. And then, so now my goal's 100, but
okay.
I'm sure it'll change as things change.
So 100 fully paid for
No, I don't ever want to be.
Well, that's right. You want to refinance out.
Correct.
Right. So I think there's something really neat to do here. I know your mom had some success and she was a role model from you. But if you've spent any time thinking about these 100 homes that you will own, because you will, these 100 homes that you own 3 generations from now, what that looks like for your family, and the fact that they're going to look back and say, man, this couple and, you know, his mom and his dad, they delivered all of these things. They created this wealth or this empire. They're the reason we can go to Harvard. They're the reason we can do these things. Have you spent any time thinking about that at all, like what your grandkids' future looks like because of the sacrifices that you've made?
Well, sure, yeah. I mean, and that's the same sacrifices my parents made for me. You know, my dad worked 12 hours a day when he had a small business, and, you know, they put me through college and all that. And, you know, they made a lot of sacrifices for me and my sister. And, you know, like I said, my son, I'm very proud of him. He's a Houston police officer. My daughter-in-law is a Houston police officer. He's already started buying some houses. He just bought his second house and rented out, you know, the first one. He's buying distressed properties.
Is he even 30 yet?
He just turned 30.
So he's going to have 2 houses by the time he's 30.
Correct. And like for him, he didn't know any better. I made him do a 15-year mortgage on it. It'll be paid off before he turns the age of 40. Nice. He's already renting that house, and it's cash positive. And then they've got their second house and trying to start a family right now. So, you know, we're just real excited about it. And he watches what I do, and he's really been like a sponge over the years. And, you know, he calls me and asks, like, you know, hey, I want to start doing this too and stuff like that. So
I tell people all the time, the greatest compliment I get is when my daughter calls me with a business question. By the way, if she wants to talk anything, you know, emotional or anything sweet, she's going to call her mom. But if she has a business question, I love that she calls me. When the phone rings, I know I'm about to ask a question or answer a question about business. And I love that I get that call. Does that call make your day to this day?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. He's always, hey, will you look at this deal for me or look at this for me and all that. And he's being real aggressive, and I'm, you know, making sure that he follows the right steps, you know, and I'm wanting him to learn on his own too. You know, I don't just hand him anything. He's always worked for everything he has. He's a very hard worker. But, yeah, he calls me all the time, and I love to help him with stuff. And my wife tells me I'm a little overcritical sometimes because that's how a lot of fathers are. But
yeah, I try to be careful with the unsolicited advice. That's hard.
Very hard.
That's hard. All right, so this is the tough talk. So we're about warning again. These are the pieces of advice you would give a couple glass Scotch bourbon, which are Scotch bourbon whiskey.
Bourbon.
I'm a whiskey guy. All right. So I'm 2 glasses Irish whiskey and you're 2 glasses of bourbon in. We're going to look right at your camera. So you're going to look right at your camera. And you're going to give the toughest advice, a couple pieces that you could think to give that you wouldn't normally give unless somebody really needed it.
I've had some clients that have sold too soon, and I told them to write it out, and they won't listen, and they lose large amounts of money. And in 5 years, it came back, and they could have made large amounts of money. But it's, you know, it's the thing people don't want to hear. They're scared of the unknown, and sometimes you just gotta. Another thing too, though, you gotta take chances. You do. I mean, as much as I say real estate's one of the strongest industries out there, there's still chances you're gonna take. You could still, you could still fail, but you're not gonna get successful without trying.
I have clients who have made more money because they lost money on their first deal. So go out, I think you said it, go out and take some chances. If you lose money and you stop there, you've lost that money. The first investment my wife and I made is a home we bought for $92,000 and we sold for $79,000, and it was the happiest day of my life when I got rid of that house. But the next house my wife and I bought, we bought at $220,000 and we sold at $320,000, and I was mad that I didn't clear $100,000. It's all about perspective. But I learned how to make $100,000 on that one deal because I lost 15 or 20 on the first deal. So if you lose money, don't stop. Keep going. Keep going. What do you got next?
No, I mean, the other thing, like you were saying, though, and everything's in relations. Like when you're talking about money, I always ask somebody goes, well, that's a lot of money. And I go, what's the definition of a lot of money to you? Because to one person it's 200, to one it's 2,000, to one it's 20,000. So it's all about perception too. And I also think, though, it's really important in this world we live in today is to, have family and friends very close to you, because, you can get too tied up with business and going on and things like that. But
yeah, we talk about, I think everybody who sits here all talks about, look, I didn't put God and family first, and this business will eat and suck every bit of marrow out of your bones if you let it. Set aside time for your family early in the year. You just talked about where you going to vacate. You're going to Europe, right? You've got something cool.
Oh, next July for my wife and I's 20-year anniversary.
And you just got back from?
Mexico.
All right. I would say another thing is you can learn something from everybody. I just had a guy that I sat down with who kind of walked me in the ins and outs of storage units, which is not something I knew a lot about. And when I first met him, he was 18 years old. And he said, I'm going to start investing in storage units. And I remember thinking, this kid doesn't know anything. This kid could buy and sell me 10 times now. He's not a kid anymore. He's a grown man who I invest with him now. And he was trying to tell me 20 years ago, you should be buying into these storage units. I have a system for it. He was an 18-year-old kid. I didn't listen. And again, now that kid could buy and sell me so many times accounts. By the way, I'm his investor. He pulls me on his deals now. I've learned more from him. And again, it was the 18-year-old kid who followed me around. You never know who you're going to learn your next life lesson from. I
100% agree.
Absolutely remember that. He's taught me so much. Any other tough talks you want to give before we have time for you to shout out?
Not really off the top of my head.
All right. I would say the best piece of advice I could give is listen to the tough talks. We have, again, Joe Rothschild on a past podcast. We have one of the best developers I know. We have a guy who started washing cars. We have a little bit of everybody. But today's podcast, I think, is really powerful because it talks to you about making money in real estate isn't just about selling real estate. You and I have sold a lot of real estate, millions of dollars of real estate, probably approaching billions for both of us. But the most important thing we've both done is buy real estate and set our family up forever. So how do people, guest shout out time, look right in the camera, how do people reach out to you? Why should they reach out to you? And how can they help you build your business?
Okay, well, we're Martin Black Real Estate. We're located in Friendswood, Texas. We've been local there in Friendswood since 1979. We know the market in Galveston County very, very well. We've been doing this a long time. We've got over 100 years of real estate experience just in our family alone. I've got a wonderful partner, Jamie Black. She's one of the very top agents in Friendswood as well. We teamed up about 3 or 4 years ago and have just really made a run with it. We had worked for big firms before, and we wanted to go smaller to the boutique. But if you need any listing, sales, investor, anything like that, give us a call.
The one thing I want you to remember, too, is real estate's really regional. And my wife grew up in Pearland, for instance, right around the corner from you. That's a very different market than Katy and West Houston. And if you're going to buy in that area, there's very few people that are more respected out there. So please do reach out. Just as a quick closing, we're here at Go Long Studios, and you know Kevin. I know Kevin. Amazing. Pablo, our producer, is great. If you want to produce a podcast here in the Katy area, we highly recommend them. Again, in upcoming episodes, we have actually the head of Champions Real Estate School, Rena Santa Maria, is going to be here. We have another real estate developer, Mr. Joey Kilcummins, who's amazing. If you enjoyed today's podcast, follow us on the socials. And if you're buying or selling a home in the Katy area, you can reach us at 877-313-SELL-7355 or find us at ctimsell.com. Thank you for joining us here at Go Long Studios, and thank you for watching The Tough Talk.